Julie Gutierrez, and you all remember Julie, who's somewhat new, and we have some other things. And so we'll start and do the roll call and be sure we have a quorum.
Okay, Dr. Opel,
Here?
Mr. Kevin Cox, Kevin?
Strokes.
Strokes, I'm sorry. Strokes here, Tony Baum. Justin?
Here.
Ms. Donna Mitoma, speak? Here. Oh, okay. Ms. Teresa Montalvo? Here. Diane Lewis? Gabriela Perez? Here.
Sorry about that.
Mr. No, sorry, Kimberly, Hodges? Here.
Oh my God.
Ms. Sarah Flores?
Here.
Mr. Sonny Thomas? Then I'm gonna call the resources name. Ms. Julie, VP Gutierrez? Here. Ms. Jessie Grant?
Here.
Richard Lorette?
Here.
TJ? And myself. Ms. Becker. Thank you.
Okay, we do have a quorum,
8.
and so that's good. So we'll move ahead. I'd like to invite, there's one member of our board of trustees, not this board, or the Citizens Bond Oversight Board, but one member of our trustees that has a ballroom named after him. Do you know the name of that trustee? Well, he's here today. James Aragon, who represents the district in northeast Pasadena and Sierra Madre. James, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you very much. I appreciate the time. It's just going to be really quick. And I pronounce my last name Aragon because it's the proper pronunciation, but many say Aragon. I wish I had some ties to that ballroom except the fact that I love to dance. Right? And so I just want to say good evening and thank you so much for what all of you do on behalf of course, our students primarily and our constituents, right? I live not too far down the street, about 1.4 miles exactly, because I know I would be racing here every day. I spent 26 years here as a counselor, and I retired happily, and now I'm teaching part-time at Glendale College, and it's a great experience to be on 2 campuses. So thank you for what you're doing. I know you're probably going to get a chance to introduce the individual I appointed. I just wanted to say a couple of words that Terry and I go back to probably 6th grade. We went to the same, yeah, only a few years ago. And in high school, and then of course our lives went different ways, but I very much appreciate her dedication and her commitment and her business acumen and her background in business and her commitment not only to her family but to students in general. So I'm sure you're all going to have a wonderful time. Thank you very much for the moments, and I wish you all the best, and thank you again.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, Senor Aragon.
There we go.
And she's already special because most of us do not have our appointing trustee come and personally introduce us. So she's already special. So, and then we'll go ahead with introductions. Thank you.
Duly
Thank you
noted.
for coming.
Duly noted. It's my honor because that's how much I love and care for this campus. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Terry, we all introduced each other at the last meeting, so we won't go around and do that again today in the interest of time, but when we did, we introduced ourselves, said a few words about ourselves and other things that we were involved in that helped our qualification for this board and all that, so tell us about yourself a little.
I'm Terry Montalvo, and like James said, I've known him for over 50 years. Recently moved to Pasadena 2 years ago, and then James asked me to serve on the board. I have a degree in business with an emphasis in accounting, and we run a construction company with my husband for many years, and so that brings my expertise as far as the accounting and construction management. And I'm looking forward to serving on the board and being involved in the community, and we've always been involved in education of our kids in public and private, and higher and middle school education. So just thank you for having me. Looking forward to it.
Thank you and welcome, and that adds a lot to us too. We have other people here who know something about construction, something about finance, and have done public service on as school board members and nonprofit board members and municipal members and all that. But thank you for adding to our expertise, and we do like to keep the staff on their toes. And grill them and toast them, and I don't, so, thank you very much for being here.
You're welcome.
Do we have any public comment? I saw no cards. No public comment today. Before we go to the minutes, is everybody happy with the agenda as it stands? Any changes you want to make in the order of anything? No. Hi.
Hunting for 233.
232.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you all have a chance to look at the minutes? And I wanted to compliment Lisette for doing a good job of what last time we had a lot of discussion, a lot of background material, a lot of briefing for the new members. And so she reflected those questions and the answers, and Richard and others provided a lot of that information. So I trust you all had a chance to look at that. I thought they were very enlightening to read again and gave us some context for this meeting, but they might need correction. So are there any corrections, additions needed? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Mr. Chair? I
Yes?
just had one small correction, a typo on page 4.
Okay.
The question, what is the meaning of swing space and PRC wing space?
Yeah,
The
that
next
we had
line.
mentioned that before. Yeah, it's not wing space for the veterans. That sounds like that's flying space. It's swing space.
Right.
Yeah.
And then below that, swing spaces, it says paces. So just
Right.
the typos right there.
We have those.
Yes, they do.
Thank you, that was
It'd
it.
be nice to have some wing space if we were a bird, but I don't think swing space there. Okay. Any others? Motion to approve, is there?
I will so move.
Okay. Moved, and who would second?
Second.
Second. Okay. It's been moved and seconded that the minutes be approved. All in favor? Noes? Any abstentions? The minutes are unanimously approved. Okay, so we are going to have a facilities update, and we go here to
C1.
C1 in your book. You can see that, and I think we can
That's also page 8.
keep track of where we are on the first page, if you can all find that. And this is a time for questions and all that, and this is pretty well illustrated and all that. So, Richard, would you like to go ahead?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'll give you the Cliff Note version, and as Dr. O'Fell has said, you can follow along starting on page 8 with the written information. Since the last time we met, we have occupied the Armin Sarafian building almost to its full extent. We're still working with Health Sciences Department to bring in over their equipment and labs for the nursing programs. Those will be online and ready for instruction in spring of '26. What has to happen prior to instruction is the health department and the different regulatory commissions have to come in and inspect the x-ray and all the sim labs, and we get certified before we can actually instruct. So they are still currently over at CEC in their current space, operating and holding classes, and then we're going to move them during the winter intersession. So that will be the last component for complete occupancy of the Sarafian building.
One comment about that, I noticed you got some good coverage in the Star News, and we're here, but I think since our last meeting, we have had a change in staffing, which Alex Beckelheide has moved on, and Julie, who helped us so much with the report. Julie, could you tell us what happened there, just because it relates to how this has been reported? And I had a couple of questions, because the thing that came up in the paper was I got a call from a neighbor who said, "Oh, I saw the PCC's opening that science building, and they had a picture of a cadaver in a bag in the paper."
Those are the Star News, I missed that one.
Those are the Star News, yeah, there's a red bag cadaver in the picture. Well, anyway, so I thought Alex didn't control that picture, but anyway.
No, so,
What's-
yes, Alex has left us. He has transitioned on to one of the Claremont colleges, where he got a promotion there. And Jillian also has left us, and I know she was very much involved with the whole startup of this committee and did a lot of work for this, and we thanked her for that. And I'm not sure, I'm blanking out where she went. So, August was it was in August that they left, both around the same time. So, myself is picking up some of the work that, they were doing for the committee. And I know Richard still stays very much involved in terms of the updates. So we're still available to assist you. I know, both of them were available for you. So hopefully that I can provide that service as well.
Thank you. Okay, good, Richard, sorry.
Oh, no worries. Is there any questions on Serafian?
I have a question. I think Serafian, aside from health service, there was something else that was supposed to move in, like a clinic or something like that, right?
The clinic has moved in.
That was clinic.
Yeah, we were able to move them over earlier than the nursing program.
Okay,
So for fall semester, the clinic is up and running. It's no longer in the D building. It used to be in the ground level floor of the D building.
and then all the students are aware of that, right?
Correct. Some of the other projects that are in progress is we are in the midst of a campus-wide exterior painting program. There's a few pictures of the R building on the exterior decks that they were repainting and coating. So that is an ongoing project that will finish in spring of '26.
I have a question on that. I saw some pictures on that.
Mhm.
I don't recall in the previous meetings that I realized there was a project going on with the paintings of the campus and that kind of stuff. Is that part of the quantum of the regular?
That's part of our regular maintenance and operations, scheduled maintenance. It's not directly hitting the bond.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure. because
That's
I
just
see that
something,
in
just so
the
you
staff.
know what's going on in the campus is that's our regular facilities update, so we have that project ongoing.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Some of the things that we would like to celebrate, that I don't see as, we don't have them on here because they're not in progress, is since the last time we met, we have substantially completed the Sexton Auditorium refresh. And I don't know if anybody came in through the front, or I see the screen is down. You get a very narrow glimpse of we've completed the Mirror Pools project. And so for fall semester, we were all very delighted to see all of our students taking advantage of the Wi-Fi and the tables and chairs, and it's turning into exactly what we envisioned. It's a collaborative space that we see groups of students working out, and it's really, I've gotten a lot of positive feedback on it, so I think we hit that one out of the park. So that's substantially complete. We're not final with DSA, we just have a few more paperwork items to do, and then eventually we will give a complete report out on the budget and where we were as far as timelines and anticipated schedules, et cetera. We'll do
Did that end up coming out costing about triple what we thought it would originally?
Well, that's not, no, not triple. And the project scope changed from what we originally had estimated, and then we had tariffs and a short time schedule, so those were also increases in the cost.
So it started out with an estimate of what, and then after the scope changed and all the other troubles with supplies and labor, we understand it. What was the difference? What would do we start out where we end?
Yeah, so basically that project started scoping out at just the Mirror Pool refresh was somewhere in the neighborhood of $2.5 to $2.7 million. And by the time we finally got it to the street, and we were experiencing supply chain issues and a tight time schedule to deliver the project, it came, I think with contingency, it was 5.2.
I see on the budget on the page 1 of 28, 7.46. That's the
Not
budget
for-
right now on
Not-
the Mirror Pool.
We'll come way below that.
Yeah.
So it'll be about 5.
The actual contract. This was a hard contract. I haven't doing the accounting. So the cost to build the project was roughly $5 million with contingency. That was with a 5% contingency. I think it was 4.8 million was the guaranteed maximum price from the contractor with a contingency.
So not quite double.
No.
Not quite double.
Yeah.
Definitely not triple.
And that's true.
Yeah,
So
okay.
where's the 7.46 budget coming on their approval? On page 1 of 28. Summary of measure PCC bond.
What's this
On page 1.
That was probably our original estimate, Richard.
Well, yeah, that would be the original budget
But
would have come in, and that's including design fees,
Uh-huh.
that's including project management fees, that would be including FF&E. The benches, there were certain items that we actually installed that were above and beyond the actual construction of the project. So that would be total budget. Some of those fees were not paid by Measure P. Some of those fees were started off in our capital outlay project. And so that number probably got carried, as Jesse was pointing out, that number probably carried over as our original budget, but the actual charges to the bond would be less than that.
So the actual hit to the bond would be about 5.
It's going to be a little bit over 5 because there is project management involved and there was some FF&E involved. So we'll come in once we final the project, we'll come in with a complete accounting.
We're very glad to see, when we talk about foundation building, we're very glad to see all the students in the place and using it with the Wi-Fi and that kind of stuff. I think that a 5 is still very good deal for the projects, for whatever the student does. I think the student are using it, that's the most important thing.
Well, and we hope too is, we haven't done the calculation, but on the, return on investment, hopefully, it lasted 50 years the first time. We tried to build it for another 50 years, so I think that's another way to look at it is it is something that gets used not only by the students but by the public 7 days a week and 12 hours, at least 12 hours a day.
Richard, quick question for you. The point you just were making for the public, because of the fact that there is, what restrictions on the Wi-Fi for the public or are you seeing any kind of groups? I keep thinking, I think it was Sunday or something, I know, going by for the flea market, there was people doing yoga. So are we seeing people, public, take advantage of this so it becomes a public asset?
No, absolutely.
And maximizes the
All
investment?
using that.
This it's an open campus, and so yes, this campus is what I have a hard time explaining to my colleagues. Facilities runs pretty much 24/7, just as campus police does. We have so many events that are formal and informal. I know that it is a public and it is open, so the public is welcome and invited to enjoy. I think the only restriction is that we do turn off the Wi-Fi at I think probably about 10:30 or 11 p.m. and it comes back on at 6. That's only kind of one of the things, and I think if they wired it correctly, we were doing the same with the outlets,
yes.
and that was just to discourage,
Right, yeah. I was gonna say that, it's such it's so beautiful, and it's so classic, and it merges the 50-year historic, along with obviously modern technology and modern assets. But almost like I want people to see social posts. Come,
Yeah.
have you enjoyed, have you seen, come experience, why do students get all the fun? Something to really kind of, again, make the community embrace it so that they also know that's where their money's going.
certainly.
Here's a great way to show where your money's going in reality.
Just to put things in a perspective, I just used this comment in a committee I was in there earlier is, facilities does a really good job of getting stuff done, but we do a really bad job of promoting it. So, no, I thank you for your comments, and I know that if Alex or Jillian were here, they would jump all over that. I know they've helped us with the newsletters and stuff in the past, so I know Julie and I will take that in consideration.
I think Dr. Gomez does a really good job.
Well, yeah, I can't, I don't the candle to Dr. Gomez.
Yeah, he was describing the lights for these people that are not seeing the new pool, like the lights that can be remotely controlled. He say Dodgers ever win the World Series again, he probably is gonna turn those lights into Dodger pools. It's gonna be a pretty amazing at night to see all these lights that's shining over the pools or whatever. So I think there's many different things that I think we want to take the word out to the community and make sure, I know a lot of people on the weekends already start gathering around this community pool area, but I think there's a lot of good things about this river pool that the community can leverage and use. You mentioned about the yoga and that kind of stuff. That's kind of cool.
Definitely, it is on the roster for campus use, so it is a space that is possible to reserve, and part of our vision also was, I know that Foundation used to use the area in the middle to confer their, excuse me, I lost it. Also, I know that, we've used it during, the college day, when we have the organizations come in and
And I think there are some plans are not from in that yet, but I have overheard, in the centennial celebration next year of the Route 66.
Yes.
This is gonna play a role in that.
yes.
So Justin, can you get the foundation to find a donor to buy the church across the street? Because my only problem here is we don't own that, because it would be perfect symmetry. With this building and the big threat, we could own the church across the street and have that part of the campus. Maybe you can find a donor for that.
But it will be pretty exciting next year with the Highway 60 celebrations. It's a New Year celebration, but people are coming down from Chicago all the way to GCC.
It's also the 250th of the country, so
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff.
Big stuff going on. Getting back to the report out, transportation lot, parking lot for rehabilitation. We are in the middle of pre-qualification and we're going to be putting that out. That's a project that we have to time in accordance with the student and I'm just losing it tonight. The flea market needs, and so that's something that we have to look at carefully on the scheduling before we can go ahead and actually break down on that. Child Development Center, we're putting in a new fire alarm in Child Development Center, where bid documents are out, and we're in the middle of the RFIs right now, responding back to those. We're still working on some egress issues and safety issues on Center for the Arts on their exit door replacements. We've just finished up and we're in final draft of district-wide campus standards. And what this does is it provides equity and guardrails for all of our projects across campus, whether they're going to be bond or capital outlay or scheduled maintenance. It develops standards that are implemented across the campus. Some upcoming projects, we have roofing phase 2 on the main campus. The Veteran Resource Center, I believe next week we are doing a bid walk on that. That's going to be their relocation out of the W building. The Rosemead, the really exciting one is the Rosemead Satellite Campus. We have all team members in place. We have our CEQA consultant, we have our architect, and we have a project management team, and we've started our steering committee kickoffs. So we're really excited about getting started on the design and re-entitlement of that area to change it from the current occupancy to an educational occupancy with the city. Dental hygiene lab, we're going to be remodeling that until we find a new home for dental hygiene. Dental hygiene is scheduled to go in one of the newer buildings with the state-of-the-art labs. And then the Power Distribution Center is another infrastructure project that's on the east side of campus that is necessary to maintain our electrical service throughout. That's kind of an overview of what's going on. In addition to those, we shared with the facility subcommittee and the board that we have 5 groups, or we're going to just call it groups of projects. There's 5 projects that are currently going out that I'd just like to mention. mentioned. These are going out to architectural services, and so they'll start being reported out once we award those architectural services and project development. That will be group one is grouping of Lancers Pass, the Aquatic Center, and the W building demolition. So that project is to clear the way of the footprint of the W building, which is beyond economic repair. Renovate the Aquatic Center so we can put it back into use. And then the transformation of Lancers Pass into something to accommodate our culinary and hospitality program. The second project within the group, we're going to be seeking design services for the STEM building. And the STEM building is the sister building to the new Serafian building. So that would be on lot 6, the parking lot 6 that is to the east of the building. So between Bonnie and the Serafian building is a footprint that we scheduled in the facilities master plan for a STEM building. Our original boiler house is the third project. This is a modernization of the boiler house and taking a building that was used to be used as a utility building and rehabilitating it and turning it into staff and housing for our IT department and our purchasing. So some of the facilities strategic plan partners would be housed in the boiler house, freeing up some other areas for instruction. We were looking also at designs for a new instructional building in the annex footprint. And the fifth project that we were going to go out with, and these are all design again, is the Colorado campus and West Master Planning. So what the West Master Planning of the Colorado campus project incorporates is one of the projects that is in the master plan, which is the new student services building. It's going to take a detailed look at the student services building, the quad, the R building, the W building, and that main thoroughfare from lot 3 into campus to make sure we design something that is functional and works well for the students in replacing those buildings. So that's kind of what's going to be coming up. That first grouping of projects was all picked because it doesn't currently impact any students or staff with displacement or needing to go to swing space. But when they are completed, they all will benefit the population of these different areas that have growth within their programs. So that's how we picked this first group of 5.
And like Richard said, this is something that we actually took to the Public Facilities Committee, which is the subcommittee of the Board of Trustees, and I thought this would be important information for you to hear, things that we're doing of capital that's around the campus, and just what we're gonna start working on. So I thought it was just a good kind of verbal update to you on just what's next in our horizon.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. What was the food service element of that? You said the Lancer Pantry? Is that-
Lancers Pass. So there was a hot kitchen that's right there on the backside of the Aquatic Center. So there's, as you go down through the campus, leaving this building, going to lot 4, there in kind of kitty corner from V, or across from V, to the west of V, and from the, I guess, northwest of the Center for the Arts building, there was a little hot food service there that they call Lancers Pass. When COVID came around and we didn't have students, all food service kind of ceased to exist. And since that time, the Piazza has come back on, and we also have the Java Hut, which is kind of a little coffee stop by the library. But we have the intention of bringing back in, leveraging that space, since it's already a kitchen, into a teaching area, since culinary arts is in a very small footprint in the back of our commercial kitchen. So it doesn't quite work for anybody, and that program has growth, and we thought it would be a great opportunity to run that program in the center of campus with the hospitality, so it would have an opportunity for the students to practice their craft and actually serve and sell food.
I'm wondering,
these things, I see that on Jesse and your package, but not in our package. In the future, is it possible to include these future projects in our package?
Yeah, as we, so right now, they haven't gone out to the architects, and no, it's not in the.
It's not in
It's not in our current.
Yeah,
No,
because
it's not in
we've recently just reported this to the facility subcommittee on Monday.
Yes.
And then we reported it to the board on Wednesday. So, no, this is just to give you an idea of what's coming. As they are awarded to architects and design teams, we will then fold them into, as I start really charging to the bond.
Yeah.
Right now, they're conceptual.
Yes.
But as we actually are gonna develop budgets and bring them in as bona fide projects, they'll come into
Yeah,
Just to give you a preview,
Yeah.
that's strictly what this is for.
I know that. I mean, that's why I say probably it's not even appropriate for me to keep that on the time being, but I can keep all my package. 2 years later or a year later, I can refer back to, a year and a half ago, we talked about land surpass. It started at a 2.25 million projects, and then whatever happens in the future, that kind of stuff. So if I have that as a reference in the future, that'd be good. Not necessarily for these particular meetings, but
Yeah,
whenever it matures a little bit more.
Yeah, and I want to temper, when you've seen the estimated construction costs, these are all based pre-tariff,
I understand.
pre the world we live in.
Chain supply.
This was off of the 2024 update, and so that took into account and then tried to put in some escalation costs. What I think I explained last meeting, the process of developing a project and going through bid. So one of those steps in the process is when we get the architect on board, we work with the stakeholders and we develop the programming for the building, of what's going to go in it and the needs, and we decide what equipment, et cetera, that has to be done. They develop what's called a rough order of magnitude, a ROM. And what that ROM does, that establishes our overarching budget. That would include the construction cost, which we would call hard costs, and soft costs, which was the management side of it.
Richard, can I ask a question going back to the parking lots?
Yes.
Is there consideration, maybe I missed it, let's see, whatever, for electric EV charging? Because I know Pasadena's got, and unfortunately, the federal tax credits end in September for people buying EVs and stuff, and there's the chargers, but I know Pasadena Water and Power has funding,
Yes, they do.
and whether that can be taken advantage of, is there thoughts about EVs to put in?
I'm gonna go back to my statement is we do really good work in a lot of things, but we do a really poor job of translating that. Yes, we are partnering with PWP currently. In addition to that, we have also brought in design services through College Buys with Answer Advise, it's Accenture. They started off as Answer Advisory and they were gobbled up by Accenture. So what we are doing on the sustainability side of the house right now is we're working on 3 projects to develop. So they're coming in to give us design criteria. Once we get the design criteria, then we will go forward and we'll either go with a design build contractor, a vendor that works on these types of projects that's turnkey, or we will go out and hard bid them. But the 3 projects that we have in line is a first project out the gate that they're evaluating is upgrading the EV charging that we have and increasing it, and the
So
electric.
moving to fast charge.
Yeah, and the electrification of our fleet. Now, some of these things, we've already been doing electrification here on the campus. Was it last year already, or is it still this year?
Last fiscal year.
Yeah, last fiscal year. We gained AGZA, that's the American Green Zone Alliance certification for electrifying all of our groundskeeping equipment. So all the big mowers, deck mowers, do all that lawn out there is now all EV, it's not gas powered anymore. And so we got a certification for that. So we've been working towards electrifying our fleets, not only in the tool section, the maintenance section, but also in our transportation and shuttle buses. So they will continue to look at that. They will look at the fast charging and increasing of chargers, and that's their first task. Their second task is to look at solar generation and battery storage.
I was just gonna say, because the trifecta is going solar to battery storage, then into charging, because it can work as a loop.
Yes,
Because if you have a power outage, you can also run from your chargers or your batteries and cover yourself when you're getting kind of outage or
correct.
disruption.
Or in a good day, we might even reduce our bill with Pasadena Water and Power. But yes, that is their second item that is in their task. And the third item in their task is to come up with the guide rails or the guidelines to initiate the resolution 799. 799, yes, we really have three numbers on that resolution, which was the decarbonization goals for 2030 that was adopted by the board and presented by the students. So those three tasks they'll come up with, it's going to be about a year process. They'll come out layered, and as they come out layered, then we will probably be adding them onto a list in this book.
I have two questions that have to do with the culinary curriculum that you're talking about,
Mhm.
and your item 4, the new instructional building, which I guess is down where that we used to, in ancient times, when I was here, was the library, down at the other end of the quad there, next to the.
Well, there is a library, that's where currently the student services.
Right,
is
so that's the area where the new instructional building would go, is that what you're talking about?
No, in the original master plan, the new instructional, there's two new instructional buildings that were talked about in the 2020 master plan. And in the 24 master plan, only part of that moved forward because of the framing of what the bond was. 2020, we didn't have a bond. We identified a need of $980 million, and then the bond came out in 2024. We resized.
Living with type 2 diabetes for many years.
Resized the project list. So that's how we got this list today, is out of a larger need that the college has, but this was the amount of money we were given. So there is an academic building that is scheduled in the east side of campus, across from Serafian.
Okay,
That's the
that's
STEM building.
right.
Then there was an instructional multi-purpose building that is going kind of in between Center for the Arts and the kinesiology building.
Okay,
There is what they affectionately call the annex. And so the annex is 5 bungalows that are there, and that was an area that we identified for growth for programs that were both coming out of kinesiology and out of the fine arts from Center for the Arts. So that was, those are instructional buildings. There was also in the master plan on the W footprint was identified as a potential, well, it was originally identified on the footprint of the pool and the W building as a new academic building. In the 24 update, the pool remains where it is, and that building shrank.
okay,
So your favorite library, that was always scheduled to be, because as it is student services, it was being still rescheduled and rescoped as student services. But what we want to do is now, because things change, and about every 4 years, we try to take a look at the facilities master plan, because certain outside influences change the directions of the needs of the college, right? So what we're looking at is the 5th one on this list is the Colorado, we're calling it Colorado Campus Westside Master Plan. We want to retake a look at that student services building, the quad, the gallery, the G building, the R building, the W building, and that gateway into campus from lot 3. So we want to have an architect really look at that, because as I know, as I walk through the campus and I get approached by students, it's not intuitive how to get to student services, but I think it should be. And so that's why we want to make sure we do it right.
Okay, thank you, and I guess for the rest of you, just to set my own experience, if it's any good, I've gone thoroughly through various iterations of the facilities master plan that I've seen, but I've missed things, and the picture that's in my mind, now what you're reminding me of, is some of that's changed since I last really read it through thoroughly, and I was on the prior bond committee, so I was watching that as it moved. So so my question is this: as the facilities master plan changes, what are the things now that are impinging on that from the academic master plan? And one that you mentioned, because you've got a facilities master plan, but what's driving that is what the students need, where they can develop, especially their vocational plans and the other academic things. So if you talk about adding a culinary element, I mean, we've had the auto mechanics and the home building and all those things here, and building airplanes here in past years, but I don't know that we've ever had a big culinary program. So what's happening to drive this, just with a couple of headlines, on the academic master plan, where the business model is going to be, let's address this need that's driving your facilities plan?
I'll try to take a stab at it and answer it, because that's really out of my wheelhouse, but I'll give you the framework of how it impacts the facilities master plan. So the educational master plan, where we came up with in 2020, there was an educational master plan in 2016, an EMP and an FMP, those are the acronyms, for the educational master plan and facilities master plan were presented to the board in 2016. Fast forward, that plan was not realized into a bond, and the need was still there. So in 2020, we took that document, and the architect did that exercise with us, and we updated it for the current scan. And so what they do is they work with our institutional effectiveness division, and they also, so that what they do is they take a look at how the college works, and what are students, where are we trending, where are programs growing, where are we, turning away students because we don't have enough sections. And so that really takes a look at that, plus they did an environmental scan of what was happening in the world, where there were opportunities to leverage, where were the employment opportunities and where was it going. And so in that 2020 EMP, somewhere in the middle of that plan is some graphics of where the programs are and where they're growing to. And so that's what drove the need for, well, one was student services needs, and we looked at the building and the current housing and what we needed to, in order to provide the services needed, and we realized that that building wasn't big enough. Everybody kind of is crammed in that building. We saw that there was growth, that we had outgrown the Serafian building, that, programs, Serafian was only a replacement from the state. We couldn't grow it. So since then, microbiology, there's been some growth within that program from just standard old chemistry and physics and biology. There's now all these subfields that we now teach. So that came into effect. Then we were looking at how many people were going into math. And so that with that information, they ended up and developed the STEM building for that growth. So the same thing with culinary is they've geared up, they fill classes, and they're at a capacity level for that program, because it's in the back of our kitchen, basically our commercial kitchen. There's a small teaching space. And so that was kind of a driver is, looking through the requests, looking at how fast we fill up classes, looking at how many people are on a wait list. That really starts driving on the academic side where programs can grow. I hope that answered.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. This is new for doing the narrative and the illustrated narrative report Richard has. This is very good. I think it's the first time you've done this. You've really just given us the verbal report, or you've done it based on tag-ons to the expense report, and doing this report this way, I think is very useful, so.
Well, thank you. We pushed that report out. So like I said, there was a couple of things that were blended in there that weren't 100% bond. But we basically, we pushed this to the facility subcommittee, and it also goes to the board, monthly. So we don't get to see you monthly, so we'll share it when we can.
Well, you anticipated one of my questions when I was going through the expense report that came out online. I thought, what is CR-DR? And when it turned out it was the Center for the Arts doorway, and then this showed up, and I thought, why is that showing up on this maintenance thing? And I thought, what, could the kids not get out of the building or what? And then you addressed it here, so thank you very much. Okay, anything?
I just
Go
want
ahead.
to say, I was gonna ask you that question, how you guys make that determination, but the fact that you're keeping up with the trends and you're staying on top of what's going on in the world with our kids is so vital as to increasing. I mean, all the kids want to cook, even if they can't cook, they still want to cook. Or they want to, well, that's one thing that
Yeah.
we hope to learn how
Yeah.
to cook, so that's great.
No, thank you. I mean, that's why we're here,
That's
right?
absolutely wonderful.
That's why this exists. We're here for the students.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, anything further on Richard's facilities update? Because we go on, we had asked the last meeting to have a rather fulsome discussion of the context for Rosemead. So, and you mentioned Rosemead in passing, but is there more you'd like to add or more we'd like to talk about on Rosemead? Since there was additional land acquisition question there, and if you look at if you go to the expense report, where we're putting our money, we're buying some additional land, and we're looking at the context of that.
I think right now what we want to communicate on here is, and I think Richard said that, is we have the new contractor for the architect. So that's just to give you an update. As land does look like it might be going forward, we'll look at it, but what we have right now is enough for us. So we're gonna look at there are 2 parcels we purchased, and that's with the 13 million that you'll see on the expense report.
Yeah, we had 2 purchases
Right.
originally on that property. We have not
We've not done it.
purchased any other property. That's the original sale.
Yeah.
So that gave us the corner of basically Rosemead and Valley. So we were from Bentel to Valley and Rosemead to almost half the block, in a weird kind of L shape. And so, yes, we are working with academics right now to scan the environment and see what projects, what programs may go down there, but we're still holding to the original plan, which is that would be a general purpose site where there would be general classrooms that are flexible so that they could hold, depending on what the needs of the area or the interest is in programs, they could teach a entry-level biology class, or they could teach a math class, or they could teach an English class. So the idea was that would be a standalone satellite in the fact that it would have health services, students or counseling services, it would have faculty there full-time, and so it would have all the essential basic needs that you have here for student support, in addition to a number of general use classrooms.
But to a certain degree, it'd be self-contained, and that's important for us.
So we have some representation here from Rosemead. Is there any additional comment or from representative? No?
I have a question.
Probably wants to know when we're gonna get started. Just like the city's all so excited for us to be there and they can't wait,
Yes.
so.
Yeah, this is a project near to my project, and I know that area fairly well. I travel around there quite often. Being an R-shaped lot, like L shape, have you guys thought about like how is parking gonna be addressed? Obviously, I don't think it's gonna be on the ground parking, right? So.
Well, we just had our, what they call a pool meeting. So when the pool meeting was, we took a look at, we want to deliver by a certain date, right? We were projecting we would be done with construction by fall of '29. So therefore, our first classes would be in the 2030 school year. So what we do is we sit down with the architect and the project management team, and we look at all the critical milestones, and we work backwards and develop a schedule and some drop dead dates. So our first delivery date from the college to the architect and project management team is next month, October 15th, is we need the general program. And so once we find out the general program that's at that site, then that can drive some information for the sequel report. Like how many full-time students are, what are the class schedules, what is the building size requirements, and then they can start building the information to put in for the sequel report. To answer your parking, there was just a broad strokes concept that was put out in probably less than a month. We were purchasing the property and we were in escrow, and we needed to decide if the city council at Rosemead was enthusiastic about us coming. And so we put together a concept and said, hey, this is what we're looking at. We used to be here across the street. We would love to come back into the area. They were with open arms. And so we said, great, and we finished the purchase of the properties. Now all the hard work comes. So the original concept had a parking structure, which I don't think is probably going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, just because of the neighborhood and where it is. So there'll probably be surface lot, maybe one level, but not a 3-story parking structure. So we're looking at the parking, that will be driven by the full-time student, how many people we're getting from through there and the schedules.
This is the option last time where please talk about all your plans. If you have the other purchases, which does sound like it's not a feasibility, then it gives you a little bit more flexibilities on other lot releases. This is going to have a challenge.
I think what you have to, what everybody needs to remember is the footprint that this college is on was not the footprint when it started.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we're going into is, I don't know what Rosemead will look like 5 years from now, but I believe that if the college has leverage and we have a need down there and to the community, they will grow as they can.
Thank you.
Okay, I think you've covered C3 as well, status on facility strategic plan projects, or anything further on that? I guess one question I have is we have, besides the Rosemead remote campus, if I can call it remote, we also have Foothill, and we had some of our health science clinical programs were at Foothill. Has that all come back here to the main campus already, or is some of that still up there?
No, it's still all there. Our plan is to move them during winter semester.
Okay.
So of 26, so they will be in place in spring of 26.
And which of the programs are still there in health sciences now?
Well, all of nursing is there.
Yeah.
X-ray is still there. There are some other allied health programs that are there that we're looking to bring everybody associated with that program back over to the main campus. Now, not all of them will fit in Serafian. They have sonography, I think, is one that they want to expand into. And then I think they have phlebotomy, which they already have it, so we'll move it here. So those will all come in, and we're looking to leverage some of the vacant spaces in Science Village, because Science Village, chemistry and biology, natural sciences moved into Serafian, so we're going to leverage that space for those programs.
Those are the bungalows.
Yes.
Yeah. The shacks. Yeah. Excuse me. Okay. All right, thank you very much. Well, as you know, the way to the top of the world is being a chief financial officer, and Deputy Wang is that, so it's time to turn to our expense report, and that is, you turn the pages and turn it sideways. We start we start some new numbering there. And if you want to see the overview, that's page 1. It looks like this. So if you find that in your book, I think we can start there and turn it over to Jesse. Jesse?
Thank you, Dr. Opel. So this time, as our bond program grows, we added more columns to bring more transparency to the committee as far as the expenses of the bond dollar per fiscal year. So now we are into the 3rd fiscal year of Measure PCC. So we organized this into twofold. So the summary page is page 1 and 2. The reconciliation that everyone used to see on the top of the page 1 is actually now on page 2. And so then that allows us to accumulate all of the projects into page 1. So,
Right, and thank you for doing that, because we had asked for that and pushed
Yeah.
back and forth, and we got that in our report to the trustees and to the public, and so that's very good. Thank you very much for doing
Yeah,
that.
thank you.
Because now we know how much we drew out and where all those, and I mean, it's only 100 million, but what the heck, but thanks for getting it so we can reconcile it.
yeah, no problem. Happy to do so.
That's good.
Yeah, and also we grouped the expenses by fiscal year. So as the fiscal year ends and all of our expenses for Measure PCC are being audited by auditors. In fact, they were on site this week. So when the auditor deliver their report, the committee will be able to tie those numbers back in what we deliver to you. Yeah.
So in that regard, we will have an annual report again this year for the period. What's the period for our annual report this time? The calendar year, or is it the fiscal year
It will be the fiscal year,
ending in?
6/30/25.
Right, so we've already passed that.
Right. So
Right,
we-
so the audit that's going on now, you all here, we have to file a report about this. So your scrutinization is very important, because we went through at the trustees meeting when I presented with that, the 3 or 4 parts of the law, and what it says we're supposed to do. And happily, you did it all very well last time. And some of the grinding and sandpapering and a little bit of contentiousness that there was, I think, was illustrated that you were doing your jobs. So on that, that's going to come up again. So when this audit's done, then that's going to be up to us to decide whether you want to accept that audit or you don't want to do it. We're going to hear that, and that audit report, and then following that, the activity report, the financial audit, and all that, we need to publish for the public and present to the Board of Trustees, right? And so what to do? So if you, we're going to have to be deciding about, further down the agenda here, when we have our next meeting. But part of that's going to be driven by the need to get a draft of this report for the year that ended in June 30th, and get it ready to do in a timely way as it goes along. So we'll need Julian Lissette's help and your help in doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So go ahead.
Sure, yeah, so this first page is a summary page that lays out all the current projects that are ongoing or either ongoing or planned to happen, take place very soon. And the first column next to the names are the allocated budget for each of the project. And these budgets are allocated in totality to account for the entire cost, estimated cost, as we can see right now for that particular project. And moving on to the next column, fiscal year 23-24, these are actual expenses that were paid out for each particular project. And same thing as the next column over, fiscal year 24-25 actuals. These are also actual expenses that the Measure PCC spent on these projects. And we also provided a year-to-date column for 25-26 fiscal year, which is the fiscal year we are in right now. So these data points are current as of August 28th. And also we show an encumbered column. So what this encumbered column means is these are the contracts that we have obligated to but have not happened yet, or we are partially realizing the contract. And that shows you how much of the contractual obligation that has left for each of these projects, and also a balance. And then if we turn to page 3, so starting from page 3 until the rest of the expense number details for each of the project. And starting from the first project, the aquatic pool, and so on and so forth. And what's unique about this presentation is that they actually breaks down the cost by each of the cost categories. So for example, the aquatic pool, we can see that the expense is in construction management. And if we pick on, let's say, you can move on to the next project. So this one, the CA door project, and there are more expenses in different categories. We have architectural costs, and we also incur some engineering and some construction management and some services costs. So that will give you more transparency and information as far as what we're doing with each of these projects.
And we're available to go over each one, any one of these that you have any questions on, rather than, in so time we won't go through every single one, but ones you have questions on.
No, well, we've normally had people look at this
Yeah.
first page and look at the salience of the projects and where we are, and which ones are moving and which ones aren't moving much.
Right.
One of the ones that came up that's interesting, though, is one of the question I have. If you look at page 9, where it has the mirror pool, and you have the 7.4, I think my original, that's why I said
Right.
not quite triple. But once something's happening here, I think, in various reports, and I can go back and archive them and make the changes, but this budget number is dynamic, isn't it? I mean, you're changing that from time to time when you get your order of magnitude estimates and this and that, you're rescoping that number. So if we look at that at the begin, if we look at the number at the beginning of 2024, 25, that number might change as you got feedback on it, right?
That's correct.
So we don't necessarily, I think it's very useful if you point to us where, because it looks like we're tracking it against the budget number, but it's like if I say if somebody says their household ice cream budget is $17 a week, but then they find out that they have skipped up to something else and it's now $26 a week, and you're measuring the variance against that, it makes it tough to follow. So one of the things that I'm not sure that we're doing to really have the clarity we need is know when you change the budget numbers. Because I've noticed that happening. I don't know if anybody else are concerned, but I don't think we can track the budget very well if you keep modifying the budget number and we don't see that. And I've never seen that reported as the budget numbers change.
Okay, that's great feedback.
Yeah, we can definitely look at that, and if this is a revised budget as opposed to like the original budget.
Yeah, it definitely is a revised budget as it goes along.
Right, and then maybe we do at least a footnote to say it was originally X and now it's.
Well, I think we ought to have a tabulation of is it where we start. I would actually be interested in, I think something that's revealing is when Measure PCC went through, and when you brought it up in the beginning and when the committee started, what were those numbers and what are they now? And I think it's important to know that because we know we're not going to get everything of that bond issue that we hope for, because labor costs are way up, materials costs are way up, we've got tariffs, and then you've got programming choices because you find out you need more culinary this, you need that. And I think that's very important for us to see that bigger picture if we're going to, because just being accountable against a budget number that you can change anytime during the year doesn't really, I think, give us the level of insight that we are really required under the law to have. So we need to do that. And now where it has fiscal year 2024, 2025 actuals of 13,196,865 is the top. That is actually the year that ends 6/30. So this 13 million is the number that we're going to be reporting on, right?
Which page are you on, Dr.
In your
He's on the summary page.
on page 1 summary is the center column, fiscal year 2024, 2025. It's that number down at the bottom, the 13 million, that we are going to be saying is the auditor, is that number right?
That's
and all
right.
that. But right, so it's that column
Is
that
this
we
all?
are going to be looking at when we produce our annual report
Mhm.
this year, correct?
Correct.
And then This year, what we're doing now is in fiscal year 2025, 2026, and that's the next column where you need to be, you know, picking through the particles to be sure you understand it. And so if you look at the things there that are the biggest and that are moving, where you're encumbering big things and doing it, then that's it. So in that regard, a question that I have on that, where there doesn't seem to be much going on, but where we have a big budget number, is the Galloway Plaza, the 11 million, because I think that's a cafe, is it not? Is that a food service center?
Yes, it was originally scoped as a cafe.
It also has student study area.
And it's that, so could you, if I could ask that, could you tell us more about, I mean, because you've got, the architects are looking at that now, or is that still waiting?
That's still waiting. I think that's what Richard was showing, those projects that were moving forward. This
So
gallery
that's,
is
we're not gonna be
one.
looking at that anytime soon.
No.
Okay.
You know, I'm far enough away from my boss and Jesse that they can't kick me under the table, but I'm gonna take a stab at this, if you bear with me. And please correct me if I misspeak on anything. This list of projects were in play, but they weren't fully vetted. And so when the bond came through, these were expenditures that were related to projects that were on the bond list. So that when you look at aquatic pool renovations, we're not gonna be able to renovate the pool for $295,000. That was just the budget at the time that the bond was passed, allocated for project development and getting it out on the street to find out what it's really gonna cost us to do. So I hear what you're saying, and I think we need to work on that narrative for you a little bit, is why you're seeing budgets change, right? It's because it's because we loaded these projects in that we had been working on that fit within the bond language and were listed in the bond itself, but they haven't gone to design, they haven't gone to the architect to develop the real budget.
Yeah.
And I don't think they've also, I'm not sure, Richard, but correct me if I'm wrong, this is not in priority order either.
This is not a priority.
And that makes a difference, I
Right.
think.
So that's where you can, in the
Yes.
communication, that's
Yeah.
where you can help us understand, because really, everybody on this committee should be able to look at the budget
Correct.
and say, that's what the bond said, this is what PCC is doing, and it's being well managed, we're getting the money for our bucks, and it's being done in priority and relating to educational needs.
And I've done just a couple circles that I'll go back, because I think we also need to explain, like, if you look down on about the 1, 2, 3, 4th project down, the Octagon Gym, we're substantially complete. So we actually have a balance of $388,000 at some point that will need to be reloaded into somewhere else.
Right, and if we ever get on any of those, for those of you who are new on the committee, the people who were on it last year got to go out and walk and look at the Octagon and see what it was and all that, so they have an idea, but if you don't have that, it's hard to visualize, unless you go back, you do have it in, the stuff is in the plan here more or less, but the as-built picture is not there, like you have some stuff in your fine report that I complimented you on you did this time. But I think here, it's, everybody here is also, wants to understand it and say, yeah, that's okay, and if they don't, they want to say, but what about it? And it, basically, in the past, all that, we found out, all the wrinkles came out just fine, but we want to be able to do that in the future, so, anyway, thank you.
That's a good
Okay.
point.
Yeah, I'm glad Dr. Oko would bring this up. It's just one of the questions I have. I was pulling out kind of like our reports in November 2024 and February 2025 and up till now. So it's been pretty consistent. For example, Galloway is $11 million, which Dr. Oko brought it up. Also the octagons, you explained it, I mean, from a tracking perspective, we didn't know that it's essentially complete and there are some residuals. But the mirror pool one, I just want to single out and I kind of want to talk a little bit more. That's kind of why I was having questions earlier. in November 2024, in February 2025, they're pretty consistent. The budget was at 3.1878887, and as you mentioned, this is kind of coming from the bond, probably the narrative on the bond. And I find out today that the budgets have bumped from 3.18 to 7.46, but reality is around slightly north of 5 million. It would be great if we have some narrative of when you go from 3.18 to 7.46, like how do we arrive at that number, 7.46? And then now we know that, like we can call back on the budget, which is great, you know, we're substantially under the budget of 7.46. Then what other projects you might be able to benefit from those things that so we can have those things in the meetings that we have, that would be good.
Certainly.
Because I was a bit surprised that, you know, it was 3.1, 3.1, and all of a sudden it's 7.46.
Yeah, and I think we explained that last, or a couple quarters ago, in the respect that it was, we had a failed bidder, and we only had one bidder, and we rejected that bid, that was coming in at four, I think it was somewhere, I don't want to misspeak, but it was over the budget that we're seeing there, and we were concerned, and we had a timeline, and we weren't going to be able to make it with that bidder, so we rejected that bid, and then we went out for as a lease-back delivery model, and we went to some of the bigger contractors, Falcon Beatty, CW Driver, Pencow, some of the big builders that are in the area, and we had them go over the plans and give us a guaranteed maximum price.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's where the market, we're at the mercy of the market.
But to close that project, so it will be about 5 million, local 5 million, so we won't hit that 7.46 budget, right?
Correct. So as you can see, she's got, Jesse's reporting that have expended to date 5.4,
Yeah.
right? And we still have encumbrances, but we still have a balance of $1 million, and we're basically substantially complete.
Yeah.
I'm going through the contingency right now, so when we explain that the project, so again, there's hard costs and soft costs, and I think we're gonna have to work internally at doing a better job of explaining that, because sometimes we're giving you the actual hard cost construction budget, which was 4.8 plus a 5% contingency, but that wasn't the total cost of the project. So as we come through and get rough orders of magnitude, the architects do in their rough order of magnitude, the budget is inclusive of architectural design, project management, FF&E, escalation, so that the numbers as we get into this program deeper, the numbers are going to be better and more encompassing of what it actually is, and then you'll see those actual trackings.
Yeah, I think transparency and these things is great. My question is really that now, like for example, Oregon, we're about 1 million, and then in Liverpool we have another 1 million or so. With that, like those, as these projects wind down, I'm assuming there's many other projects can be pushed into this list, and then we have like $2 million that are budgeted that we don't need anymore. Just kind of, and not necessarily in this meeting, but in the future, I'm wondering if you can give us some other like things that you guys might be considering how you're going to use those budgets for.
Certainly. So I think at a 30,000 foot view is.
That's a board issue.
Yeah, but.
No, I'm saying once the board get, like what you're gonna present to the board, and it would be great if we can know that, oh, that's these 5 other projects, not that we have funding for, you know.
Yeah, I think you're gonna see that later in the program. So right now, we've identified the next 5 projects, other than Rosemead, that's out of the master list. So what you are gonna see though, as we substantially complete and close out with DSA, Jesse will take that and it will go down into the reserves. So you'll see reserves grow. And then as I get a rough order of magnitude on one of those 5 projects, then you'll see, we'll come back and give you the narrative, and then that budget will grow. So aquatic renovations is the first one that's coming out. So over this next year, as we get an architect, we will get the proposal from the architect. So you'll see that 295 grow a little bit with the proposal of the architect. Once the architect comes up with design and gives us a rough order of magnitude, then we will establish the total budget, that now you can hold my feet to the fire on that one, and we can watch that as it goes through construction into delivery. And then if we close it out with a positive, then it will come back into reserves, and then we'll continue to do that till we get to a point where the larger projects, we don't have sufficient budget, then we would go back to some of these other projects that are on here that didn't have a priority, but still had a need, and then we can funnel that reserve money into those.
Yeah, just from for my role, I'm not sure if you, but like, for us to report back to our constituents and that kind of stuff, it would be great say that with, the oversight of the TCC or whatever, we'll be able to accelerate these projects because of the cost savings and those type of things. I think those are very positive narratives that we can let the community know that.
Noted.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any,
I was gonna suggest, I wonder if it would help to the point that you were making and kind of like, and what Dr. Opal, is that there is it doesn't have to be another column, but maybe it's a sheet that has what was the bond budget? Because you were saying you had to put these numbers in and this is where we started. So maybe know what those are, and then know when you put next in the budget that you've reflected, then you can see the variances. Because this, is where you started, because you had to have some number, you had to put something in, you were developing your priority list and your project lists. And then like to your point, was it one number at 3 and then went to 7? Oh, was it 3 because that was the original, and you know where your variances are as you go.
I
We can
don't,
look at that.
yeah, I don't believe there'd be a problem, because
Yeah.
we do have those numbers established from the 24 update, where we do have a rough order of magnitude that basically prices out about 480 million with contingency. Right, so what the 2024 update was based off of, okay, we've got a bond, here's the bond, here's what it costs us to sell the bond, insure it, all that stuff, the payback to the Serafian, and that gave us a budget that we identified projects. So I think we've got apples and oranges, because we had things that we leveraged to show that, hey, we had a need or we had an emergency and we executed in Series A, but we also have that project list. So, yeah, we can.
Yeah, it might be a way just to show you got, this is our beginning foundation. And then the other is, when you have your balances, I wonder if we could earmark, when you think something's completely done, so you can earmark and say that balance is sitting there, and you say, we're done, and that balance could be now moved to reserves.
We can do a little asterisk next to the ones that are substantial completion, and we're just waiting for a TSA sign off, so then we can release retention, do a little footnote for that.
Yeah, because then we can then kind of look and say, oh, to your point, oh, there's $2 million, gee, that $2 million should be, that could go into X. And then you present that to the board, whatever, but at least input and discussion and opportunity to earmark reserve, balance funds that can go to reserve and then to projects. Right.
good. Okay, Jesse, do you have?
I think
Yeah,
that's.
I think that this was all a diversion from your report.
Oh,
Are
that's okay.
you done?
Yeah, I'm done, so unless members want to look at specific projects, I'm happy to do so. The rest of the pages are really just very similar, just reporting on the details per category for each of these projects.
To close the discussion of the report, I just have a quick question I asked in the last meeting. The second issuance, originally that was scheduled for next year, but as I'm looking through these, like fiscal 23, 24, what's the thinking about? and then the 25-26. Is that still gonna be a need to issue that in 2026, or you can push that back?
So we are, so we are working with our financial advisor. So what, if they are, so it's twofold, as Richard alluded to. So when we first build out the project for each of these projects, we allocate some to get it started. A portion of the reason is also because, in order for us to issue our next issuance, we need to be hitting about 80% cash spent.
Yeah,
Right, so otherwise we will run into an arbitrage issue.
right.
So we are tracking that, so as soon as it gets closer to 80%, then we will be working to push the next series of our bond dollar out into the market.
Because I don't see anywhere within this page at least that we're gonna hit 80% next year or so.
Yeah, we are definitely probably not gonna get there, but as project go through, because the first year and a year and a half is really the planning phase.
Right.
So there's not a lot of things that we can see and show you. But as things go through the administrative process or come out of DSA and we can actually start constructing, then the expenses will flow much quicker.
Right. That's why I asked. I remember you mentioned last year about 80%, when I was looking at the balance and everything, like, I think 26, hitting the 80% is gonna be.
Yeah, the way that we're trending right now, possibly 27. Yeah,
27.
but we'll keep it moving.
Okay, I read through all of the expense items, including the rather informative headings. I'm sure you did. We can ask Jesse any additional questions now, if you want to do that, or this is an action item to accept the report. And I would entertain a motion to accept the report if you're satisfied with the details. Yeah, Kevin?
I accept it.
Okay, motion to accept, yeah, who else? Second?
I'll second it.
Second, okay. Been moved and seconded that we accept the expense report from CFO Wang. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? It's unanimously passed. Thank you very much. Okay, so announcements. This is actually a discussion point. Proposed future agenda items. We have the usual, but I heard today that we like Richard Moretz enhanced facilities narrative, and we hope to see more and better on that. And in terms of the project list that you had up on the screen there, everybody found that informative. So I think we probably want to have that. We want to see how we want to handle the budget modifications, and Kimberly did bring Halloween candy, so I guess we want to be sure there are no tricks, but there are treats down there. You can take some on the way home. Thank you, Kimberly. And so we want to figure that on the budget mod, so we'll let the staff, you guys can figure out how you want to handle that. I think those numbers that they put in the beginning, I was always shown on budgets, and they just said, well, just throw in some plug numbers, just blah, 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 and there was an acronym for just make it a WAG, and blah, 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 and so you kind of do that, but if you sell something on that basis, and then you change it, you come back and kind of say why, so you track it. So I think that's not, there's no bad faith there, we just need to do that. We do need to be hearing something on the 24-25 audit, so we need to time our meeting so that we can do that. And then we probably need to have a draft of our 24-25 report ready. And since we don't have our past staff here to do it, that's a lot to ask for from those who are here, so I don't know how that'll work. And so, are there any other additional things that are usual in those items that you'd like to have on the agenda? And are those items okay with you for the agenda? Is that what we talked about? Okay, does that sound okay? Yes?
Two quick questions. One, do we know, when you're looking at the expenses, has in other words, a question whether, because people were able to extend their property taxes for those in the fire areas.
Yes.
That's not due until October, so I know there were still questions and they were projecting expenses for the, to be able to cover bond.
Yes.
So is that still, do we know any numbers on that, or has it gotten anything for the tax assessor?
We did, so, we made a lot of phone calls, and finally we were able to talk to someone at the county that actually is in charge of that project. So we received a statement as of June 30th. And then we learned a lot throughout this process of how the levying works and how the repayment works. So what we learned throughout the process is that the county, when they levy the taxes, they keep the balances per each of our bond issuance. And when one bond issuance, the levy experience a delay, the other issuance that has a positive ending fund balance can actually lend funds to repay the one that are having delay. So, but, well, we didn't have to do that this year because the ones that we are having a shorter balance or having a delay in levying actually had a positive, healthy fund balance in order for the payments to be made. So now that we're almost at the October timeline, everybody's taxes are due, extensions are due. So, well, we are not foreseeing any type of issue moving forward unless, there's another law that comes down and creates further delay. So far, in totality, and then that's how the county looks at it. In totality, all of our issuance, including Measure P, which we're still repaying, and the current Measure PCC, in totality, we have a very healthy fund balance in order to meet all of our obligations for all the different issues.
Okay, if that's okay, could we amend our prior motion where we got the expense report to have on the action item there, or just add an item and put that back under item D and make it D2 on revenue projection, because we had asked that question before and that was a good answer, a good question and a good answer, I think. So could we have another motion to accept Kimberly's question and Jesse's answer about the impact of the fires on the revenue stream, and be sure we have that reflected, because that's something we always worry about. Now you know the answer, so if that's okay. We have a motion to approve that answer as part of the report.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Kimberly. Mo,
Second.
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 Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimously passed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so, dates. I was looking at January, but maybe we need to do it before that.
I think you need a December meeting for the audit.
Yeah, so we need either an early December meeting or a late November meeting.
Okay.
And November late is Thanksgiving, so if we could do an early December, that would be helpful.
Okay, so we usually do it on a Thursday. So how about December 4th? Does that look okay? Does that work for the staff? That's the first week of December, so that's when there are lots of holiday parties. So I don't know, it may be that there are fewer holiday parties on the 2nd than on the 4th, but,
Excuse me, I'm good with whatever.
okay,
Come up.
okay, thank you.
Excuse me.
Let's try for the 4th,
Okay.
if that's okay, and flex it to the 2nd, or if we have to, maybe the 9th, okay, in that preference order, 4 to 9. So,
I don't know if I can make a quick comment.
yeah,
The Board of Trustees meeting is on December 10th. So if we are going to, and then the trustee do need to also accept the report as well. So if we can meet earlier in the first week of December.
okay, so,
Like four.
Well, the 4th is earlier.
Yeah, he said the 4th.
Yeah.
Or
said
so,
the
not the 9th. No, the 9th was another date. So
Yeah.
yeah, I said that, so you would rather it be the 2nd or the 4th?
Correct.
Okay,
We'll try for the 4th first and if not the 2nd.
Yeah, right, we'll try for the 4th and then
Okay.
for the 2nd, and then if we have to do it for one of the other days, we can set one of the other days of the week. But I think most people seem to like it on Thursdays and Tuesdays, so we'll do 4, 2, and then go to Wednesday or Monday if we have to. But, okay, there we go. All right, is there anything further? Thank you very much for coming, for taking your time. Thankful to thank you to our staff. What's that, Jesse, Richard, and Julie for all you do. Jose Gomez told me he's not taking his son on a college search tour, so sent his regrets that he couldn't be here, but he wanted to be. And so officially 11/19 on Monday, fall supposedly begins, but enjoy your next 2 weeks of hot weather. And we'll see you in December. Thank you very much for coming.
May I say something?
Yes.
I'm Diane Lewis. This is my first meeting this night.
Yes, Diane, tell us, I'm sorry, tell us about yourself a little.
Well, I missed the first meeting. I have actually been going through the fire. I lost my home in the fire. I lost everything. But I made it today. So my background is in education. I was with LAUSD for 44 years. And I taught at Cal State LA in the special education department and child development. That's my background. I have a specialty for kids with autism. I'm currently supporting as an advocate for kids in PUSD for programs that we don't have in autism. Maybe we can borrow some of y'all's bun money. Because they definitely need to kind of come up with a new, because autism has tripled, as you well know, in our communities. But that is pretty much my background right now. I'm trying to maneuver the architects myself and get things on the road to getting plans approved for my new home. And it's very difficult. This is probably the hardest thing I've ever thought that I could, it's not an easy task going through, and it's definitely devastating to not have a picture of, I raised 2 children and I don't have one picture. So I was in my home for 32 years, and it's hard, but I am the CEO and Executive Director of our Kebulon Cultural Center, which is in Pasadena on Raymond. It is the only African American cultural center in San Gabriel Valley. I'm getting ready for Art Night, which is October the 10th. My artist is coming from Jamaica. I'd like to invite you all out to come. It starts at 6, as you well know. I am the first one on the list. I do a great number of things in the community. I was sent to Washington by Judy Chu to talk to our dear president about the fires. Didn't have a lot of luck with it, but I tried. I'm actually going back again because we are still in conversation about what needs to be done and how to help folks in Pasadena and Altadena with the fires. I'm very active in this community. With the Cultural Center, we offer various classes, capoeira, dance. We also teach a class on Saturdays about African American history. Ballet. We have adult classes if you like. We also do various lectures and projects and book signings for various new books of people that do exceptional things in the community. So, and I try to bring all the cultures together when things happen in our community that we need to do. We need to come together and talk and have conversations. So that's pretty much it right now.
Wow, that's a lot, Paul.
I'm more occupied with the fire right now than anything.
We wish you the best and strength. You seem like you have a lot of bounce in the ball. So you, despite the fire, you've got a lot of resilience, that's
Yes,
obvious, and
yes.
so thank you for being with us. And so why don't with Terry and with Diane at the head of the minutes, instead of later, say that we welcome our 2 new members, and if we can, say a word about them. And thank you so much for being with us and participating. We look forward to having you again. Thank you. All the best wishes.
So, yeah.